welcome. Is Kris dead? I think so. And in this video, I'm gonna explain why. I'm just gonna skip through the long intro where I try to grab your attention and hook you and just get straight to the point. There are many hints that Kris is dead. The first and most obvious hint is the many times Kris rips out their own soul and shuffles around like a zombie. Their movements seem very stiff and awkward, and every step seems arduous and painful. This may seem like an aesthetics thing, like, oh, they walk around like a zombie, they must be dead. But seriously, how can someone just rip out their own soul and walk around like it's nothing? Another hint is the fact that Susie calls them the school zombie and says we were sleeping like a corpse all class, which might be subtle foreshadowing that Kris is dead. But perhaps the biggest piece of evidence that Kris is dead is the fact that they don't have possession of their own soul anymore, because the soul that's in their body isn't theirs, and the only way they could have lost it is if they, well, died. Let's go over every instance that implies that the red soul isn't Kris's soul. In the dark world, Kris is described as a body with a human soul, which is just so bizarre. For one, it doesn't say that this soul is their human soul, it just says that it's a human soul. It's also weird that it doesn't call Kris a human or a person, just a body, as if Kris is merely a vessel for this human soul and nothing else. In the light world, multiple characters comment on how strangely Kris has been acting lately. Toriel tells Alphys that she's grown concerned over Kris's weird behavior. She'll also tell Kris they should go to bed early since they don't look quite themselves. If you talk to Noelle at the end of chapter 1, she'll ask us if there's anything wrong with us since we're usually not this talkative. Kris is implied to be pretty antisocial and introverted, so the fact that they're just walking up to random people in town and striking up conversations with them is very out of character. In the hospital, we're able to play the piano, quite badly I might add, and the clerk will say, you usually play a bit more beautifully. Is everything okay? You do seem a little sick. Kris definitely knows how to play the piano. Noelle's blog talks about Kris's beautiful piano playing, and their search history includes queries for piano tutorials. So it's very odd that they've suddenly lost their ability to play. We can play the same piano around Susie in chapter 2, and our playing is so bad that she thinks we're joking. Then she'll comment on how annoyed Kris looks, almost like they know they can play the piano, but the incompetent soul that controls them can't. Then there's the whole Snowgrave route, where Kris forces Noelle to kill everyone. Noelle seems quite shaken by this coercive behavior, and points out that Kris is never this pushy. Later on, she'll ruminate on the voice telling her what to do, and say it didn't sound like Kris's voice at all. The idea of a second entity telling Noelle what to do is further supported by the Birdly fight. If Kris goes down, Birdly will take the opportunity to tell Noelle to stop fighting, but Noelle will say that she can still hear Kris's voice, despite the fact that they're literally unconscious. So as you can see, Kris has been acting very out of character recently. But that's not all. Kris also seems to possess knowledge that only the player would know. In this room in the forest, you're supposed to walk around the room until you see a secret switch. But if you've already played this room before, you can just go up to the switch and flip it. Browse will seem amazed by this, and ask us how we knew the switch was there. When you meet Sans for the first time, you can say it's great to see you, and he'll comment on how strange that is since we've never met before, but we'll give one of his knowing winks. In chapter 2, we can ask Sans to see Papyrus, regardless of if we spoke to him in chapter 1, and if we didn't speak to him in chapter 1, he'll comment on how weird it is that we asked about that since he never mentioned having a brother. If you speak to Undyne in chapter 1, you can ask her about Alphys. There's absolutely no reason why Kris would ask a random police officer about their teacher, but someone who's played Undertale before might, because Undyne and Alphys are together in that game. Overall, Kris has knowledge that only the player would know, specifically someone who's played Undertale before. Kris also seems to lack knowledge that they should know. If you visit Rudy in the hospital, not only will he assume that we came because Toriel told us to come because it's super out of character for Kris to be that social, but if we read the board on the wall, he'll say, "Kris, you forgot my name or something?" And if you interact with the floral display, he'll say, "Hey Kris, you know you signed that, right? Why are you staring at it like you've never seen it before?" The last piece of evidence that Kris is being possessed is the fact that there are situations where Kris appears to be being forced to say things they don't want to say. The most famous example of this is at the end of the Spam to Neo fight, where Susie will ask if Kris is okay, and if we make them say, yeah, we're okay, you can tell that they're straining to say it, like they really aren't okay, but they're kind of being forced to say it. So as you can see, Kris has been acting very out of character recently. And this strange behavior only occurs when the red soul is in control. Still not convinced the soul isn't theirs? Well, when Kris rips it out at the end of chapter 1 and throws it in the birdcage, you can still move it around on your own. This basically confirms that the soul is under the control of another entity. so this red soul clearly isn't theirs. Which brings up the question of where is their actual soul? Maybe they died and their soul got shattered into a million pieces. But if Kris is dead, how can they walk around without a soul? One word: determination. Determination is the power that allows human souls to persist after death. It's the will to keep living, the resolve to change fate. It's the power that allows Frisk to save and load. And it's the power that allows people to come back from the dead. In some of the notes Toby wrote for the Undertale Japanese localization team, he explains the very literal meaning of the word determination. Creatures with too much are unable to die. Determination. So determination is made up of two words, de and terminate. Terminate means to kill or die, and de, in this context, means to undo. So determination literally means to undo death. There are three main cases in Undertale where determination is used to resurrect the dead. Frisk resurrects themselves by using determination to save and load. When they die, they simply reload their save. They also use determination to more directly defy death when their soul literally refuses to shatter. You see, it's another pun. The soul refused, get it? Now, in all of these cases of resurrection, Frisk still has their soul, but there are actually two people who were resurrected without a soul, Flowey and Kara. Let's start with Flowey. Flowey used to be Azrael. He died and his dust was scattered across the yellow flowers in the runes, which became infused with his essence. Many years later, Alphys injected one of those flowers with liquid determination and created Flowey. Azrael's essence gave Flowey Azrael's personality and memories, and the determination gave him the will to live, despite not having a soul. Next, we have Kara. They died and their body was buried. And through means that are still kind of unclear, Kara was resurrected using Frisk's determination. Your power awakened me from death. My human soul, my determination, they were not mine, but yours. I still don't fully understand how this works, but I think it has something to do with the fact that Frisk fell on the flowers that Chara's body was buried under, but I don't really know. It seems like a human's body contains a human's essence, so this resurrected body still had the same personality and memories as Kara. So I just showed 3 instances where individuals used determination to resurrect from the dead, and 2 of those instances involved people who no longer had souls. So going back to Kris, if they died and lost their soul, they could still live without it if they had enough determination, theoretically. And we know that they are determined since they are able to open dark worlds, and Queen reveals that you need to be determined to open a dark world. I think under normal circumstances where the red soul is in control of Kris's body, they move around like normal because the soul naturally has determination and it keeps Kris alive. When Kris removes the soul, you can tell that they're struggling a lot to move because they're relying on the limited supply of determination in their body. That's why they always return the soul to their body despite not wanting to, because they're reliant on the soul's natural determination. Now let's talk about how Kris's possession works. This is not the first time in these games that someone acted as a vessel for a soul that wasn't theirs. Flowey hosted all 6 human souls in his body and became Photoshop Flowey, and a similar thing happened when he became Azrael. So it's definitely possible that when Kris died, the red soul took advantage of their weakened state and possessed their body. Another interesting insight we can gain from the Photoshop Flowey fight is the fact that the souls are constantly fighting against Flowey. I mean, they're giving Frisk healing items and eventually they just completely overpower him. So the way that I think these vessel hosting arrangements work is that there's a constant battle of wills between the vessel and the soul. Whichever one is more determined at that moment will control the body. Flowey is normally very determined, so he's able to keep the souls mostly in check for most of the boss fight, but as he grows more cruel, the souls become more determined to stop him and they eventually overpower him. Going back to Kris's possession, I think it works in a similar way. For the most part, the red soul is in control, but in a few select moments, Kris gathers the determination needed to fight back. As for who's possessing Kris, I have a whole video going over the many different theories for who the red soul can be, and I will link the video in the description, please watch it. But finish this video first. As for me personally, I tend to think that the player is controlling Kris, just because they seem to have knowledge that only the player would know, specifically someone who's played Undertale before. Speaking of Undertale, this brings me to my next question. Is the red soul that possesses Kris the same one that possesses Frisk? I know, I'm veering so off topic right now. I will get back into the original topic of the video, but this is just an interesting thing I want to talk about and it's too short to fit into one video. Anyway, there are some indications that these two are being controlled by the same soul. Firstly, their soul is literally the same color as Kris's, which might be a coincidence if it wasn't for the fact that at the end of the true pacifist route, Flowey literally talks to the player. It seems as if everyone is perfectly happy. There's nothing left to worry about. Well, there is one thing. One last threat. One with the power to erase everything. Everything everyone has worked so hard for. I'm talking about you. So please, just let them go. Let Frisk be happy. In this moment, Flowey is not talking to Frisk. He's talking to us, the player. The one with the power to save and load. The one who could reset the timeline with a click of a mouse. Frisk isn't in control of their actions. We are, the player. Now, could this same player be controlling Kris? We know from the real world's perspective that yes, we are the same person controlling Frisk and Kris, provided we played both games. But is this true for Undertale and Deltarune's story? Toby did say that Deltarune is intended for people who've played Undertale before. And the person who controls Kris knows things that only someone who's played Undertale would know, like the Sans dialogue and the Undyne dialogue. So I think it's very possible that the person who controls Frisk is the same person who controls Kris. It's us, the player. At this point, there's one thing I have yet to address, and you're probably screaming at your screen right now. How did Kris die? And I don't have a concrete answer as to what happened, as I'm only working with incomplete information. Only 2 out of 7 chapters have been released. Basically, what I'm saying is, if I end up being right, then I'm being 100% serious right now, and if I end up being wrong, then I was totally just joking, okay? Now, I personally believe that Kris was killed by Gaster, so their body could be used as a vessel for the Red Soul. I know this is like my 100th video about Gaster, but I don't know, there's just a lot of evidence that he's gonna be important to the plot, okay? I don't choose the facts, okay? I didn't write the story. I'm just seeing all these connections, okay? So don't blame me, don't shoot the messenger. So let me explain myself here. Gaster is definitely the one responsible for Kris's possession, so let's get that on the record. He is the narrator of the character creation sequence. The music that plays during the background of that sequence is called Another Hymn, which is a reference to how Gaster's theme is called Hymn in Undertale's files. The song has Gaster's leitmotif in it. The narrator talks exactly like him. He's also the one that entices us, the player, to play Deltarune from Twitter and eventually forces us to possess Kris. You've heard this all a million times before, but it needs to be stated. So, Gaster is responsible for Kris's possession. So, is it not at all possible that Gaster made Kris kick the bucket so he could use their body as a vessel for the Red Soul? Another weird piece of evidence is the weird connection between Kris and the bunker and Gaster. Kris has trauma associated with the bunker, as evidenced by this conversation with Susie. You okay, Kris? What's the deal with this place? Well, you don't gotta talk about it. There's evidence that Gaster lives in the bunker because the sound that plays near the bunker is like the same sound that plays during entry 17 but slowed down. So there are connections between Gaster and the bunker. Clearly it's being implied that Gaster either lives in the bunker or does experiments in the bunker, something like that. So is it not possible that the Goner Maker machine is also in the bunker? Because we know from the files in Deltarune that the Goner Maker is like a physical device or machine. So what if it's in the bunker? Going back to Kris, maybe Kris has trauma associated with the bunker because they died there and was possessed in said bunker. A question you may have is, if Gaster needs a vessel so badly, why doesn't he just use the vessel he makes us make at the beginning of the game? Why does he need Kris in particular to be the vessel? Well, what if he wants Kris in particular because Kris is one of the 3 heroes in the prophecy, and Gaster has some plan associated with the prophecy? I mean, he was talking about the prophecy and wingdings on Deltarune's official website. You're probably asking, what is his plan? And I have no idea, so we're just gonna move on. I assume as more chapters are released, we will get our answers. Or maybe I'll just be proven wrong entirely. Like I said, if I end up being proven wrong, then this video is just a gigantic joke. Why aren't you laughing? Alright, so those are basically my thoughts on the topic. Now, based on this recording time, it seems like this video is going to be on the shorter side. Or who knows, maybe it's actually going to be super long, it just depends on how I edit it. But regardless of how long the video is, I hope you enjoyed it. If you agree with the theory, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you disagree with the theory, make sure to leave a dislike and a death threat in the comments below. Thank you to my wonderful members, PF247, Silly Willy Billy Silly, Grey Leno, Zilani, Ritalin, Shoshi, Frenchinator, and Wolfish Mass. Thank you for watching my video, bye bye!